Howdy and hello. Welcome to the stream. Is my microphone picking up me? Hello, testing. Yeah, I have so much junk in the way that it's hard for me to actually see where my microphone is. But yeah, okay, I am being picked up properly. Need to turn on the fan. Yep, rare YouTube stream. I think the crop that I have for the playlist name is not working right. Did they not show the... Oh, wait, there it is. Change the dimensions of everything every single time. So yeah, I just haven't had stuff to publish on YouTube. I have been massively burned out for a while, especially when it comes to like animating and stuff. Well, animating YouTube stuff. YouTube just doesn't feel fun. So I don't do it a whole lot, but I do have a video that I have had planned that I do want to make a video on. So, yeah, it's going to be another little tabletop video and stuff that people are familiar with. It'll be a video about tabletop stuff. Generic tabletop stuff, but especially relevant to Pathfinder and D&D.
Pete here. Hiro Dense uses firearms than swords.
No, I don't think he would use firearms. He's too much of a good boy. He wouldn't want to shoot anyone. Turn my music a little bit. Realistically speaking, a gun actually isn't all that much more deadly than a sword. It's just way easier to use. It's a lot more immediate. You know, Toon occasionally will release new updates, which I'm a little bit hesitant on because they're now trying to pull some AI bullshit. But they'll release updates and stuff, yet they still haven't implemented a scruffy zoom for drawing and animating. Like, if I want to zoom in, I have to draw a box over the thing I want to zoom in. I can't, like, hold down and then move left or right to scroll in and out. And this has been a missing feature for years. Hello, hello. And yeah, I just haven't had motivation or reason to stream to YouTube. I feel like I've kind of been in a situation as well where it's like, if I try to make something that isn't just like... If I make something that isn't just like... just completely bait, or if I don't make something that's like... I actually don't even know what people want anymore and stuff, because it's like I still did Hero the Dents last year and nobody actually watched it. He's nowhere near compared to like what people previously had seen. It feels like anything that I do just carries a significant risk of just causing me to lose subs.
Drawbot OCs in Brenda Song's Asian school uniform.
I'm not gonna do that because I'm working on a video at the moment. I am doing alright. Alive. What more could I ask for? Maybe for better world conditions. I think that's actually fair to ask for. Oh, I thought of another thing that I wish I could ask for. I wish fucking Monster Hunter Wilds was actually better optimized for PC. And before anybody says anything, well, my PC can run it, that doesn't make a difference if it's still running like garbage. Being able to run it does not necessarily mean you're able to run it just fine, and I'm just annoyed that it's a $70 game that runs as it does and taxes my system as much as it does. I think people's definitions of fine tend to be subjective. That's one thing that was actually really annoying and stuff, is that, like, you have a lot of people who say that it runs fine, and then it's running at like a 30 FPS and their PC is running very, very hot, despite everything. And it looks like it's muddy and blurry and stuff like that. And they'll insist that it runs fine, and it sounds more like coke than anything. Or there's also people who it's like, hey, it runs fine on my system, I can run it just fine, maybe you need to upgrade. And they're running like a 4090 or whatever, with like a 7800 XD, or GXD or whatever it is for their processor and stuff. You know what I don't find fun, fanboys? When my entire room heats up like a sauna because the game is so badly optimized that, despite how ugly it looks and how expensive the game was, my entire PC is basically heating up my entire room as if it's a sauna. That's not fun. And I'm somebody who can actually get a stable 60 FPS with Wilds. Or mostly stable. You'll still get a lot of frame rate dips whenever you try to turn the camera. And that happens literally all the way up to like a 4090 series cards. I haven't gotten Wilds yet because I refuse to pay $70 for a game that runs like that. This is Toon Boom Harmony. Toon Boom Harmony is a very high-end animation software that I paid for in 2017. I got a mask, so now I can move the eyes around without fear. Just setting up a very, very simple rig here. I got a little handle here, so now I can control and move the eyes around very easily without having to select each individual one. Or I can move the eyes individually should I wish. And if I go into the render view, the eye disappears. Or the little handle disappears, so it only shows up in the editing view. Yes, Toon Boom is actually geared to doing the exact same kind of stuff that Flash can do. It's vector-based, however, it also can handle raster layers. Like, here is the basic drawing layer, so like this is vectorized, like you would get in Flash. However, I can alternatively edit this and convert this into a bitmap drawing. And then I can do color mixing and stuff, as if it were a actual traditional drawing software. Unfortunately, there's no reliable eyedropper, which is like a huge issue for painting stuff manually and stuff, but you can do bitmaps. So it can do both bitmap stuff and vector stuff. The big difference between this and Flash is that premium versions of Harmony actually have these networks of nodes, which basically control how things are composited together and how they interact. So like right here, you can see these are all basically just the pegs, which control the positioning of the items that I've made. So if I move a peg, it affects everything in its hierarchy chain. Where were you when Zedrin was die? I was watching the tube of you when the notification bell rang and it said Zedrin is kill, and I said no. This is so sad. Can we get 5,000 likes? Why is Toon Boom so fucking weird sometimes? You don't believe in human rights with this one. Yeah, they do have a perpetual license, which should still be available, but that's what I got back in 2017. It set me back around like $1,600 to get. Like, I really wish that Toon would kind of get on board and just like update their pricing to a more favorable model and stuff, because it's been so inaccessible for most people that really only industry professionals and like very, very specialist hobbyists and stuff like myself are the only ones who are able to use it. It's very, very difficult for like basic people to access. And the thing is that while they do have lower tier versions and stuff that have fewer features and are way cheaper, the important thing with Toon Boom, the advantage that it has, is the node network, which is only accessible in the premium version. If you don't have that, just use Flash or whatever. You can literally get Flash for free if you can find the Flash 8 copy. That one's not owned by Adobe. Alright, now I gotta design some hats. Anyway, the video in question, by the way, for those curious, it's going to be about statistics in RPGs, specifically the statistic of charisma, because I've got some hot takes on charisma. Fanboys, that's not a pun. That's not a pun at all. You don't know what a fucking pun is. should make some of these outfits and stuff for the NPCs references. Does anybody have any requests that they want to have me draw for caricatures? So one thing you should do while on a break, you should basically have like a little notebook, and if you get any ideas and inspired while you're on break, write them down regardless, because sometimes you'll have most of your ideas and stuff when you're trying to like relax, and you don't want to forget them. When you're ready to start just getting back into art, start by doing like a bunch of warm-up sketches and stuff, like, you know, like drawing little just doing a bunch of little loose doodles and stuff of something that you really like and something that's your comfort character or favorite themes, what you find kinky, stuff like that. Alright, I can do a school uniform. Seifuku. I don't know what this school uniform actually looks like, but I'm going to just do a simple one. These are going to be adventurers, by the way, so Bard going around with a Seifuku is funny. One of my favorite Nintendo characters. When in doubt, add belts. No, I do not think most guns could one-shot most enemies. Here's the thing. D&D has rapiers. You want to know what was introduced and developed before rapiers? Firearms. Specifically, like, personal firearms and stuff. Like, not just the whole cannons on a stick thing, like actual, like, personal firearms and stuff. They would still be single shot, but you had decent firearms by the time rapiers were introduced. Rapiers are a very, very expensive and very, very advanced weapon. At the time, the term bulletproof as well was implemented to describe basically the arms race between armor and firearms, because a lot of armor actually could stop bullets and stuff. And then it was kind of just an arms race to see what basically would win out in the end. Eventually, firearms basically went out, not because they could necessarily penetrate armor, but rather because it's just way easier to train people to use firearms, and they're a lot more immediate of an effect. Like, traditionally, if you wanted to have units if you can basically shoot at somebody from afar, you have a lot of opportunities to basically kill them before they wind up getting close to you and killing you. Firearms and stuff were a way to allow them to use that, to gain that advantage with a bunch of untrained people, rather than having to have specialists who had trained their entire lives to use bows. So, firearms won out in the end not because they were more deadly, but rather just because they were so easy to use. That's where their deadliness comes from, not from their stopping power, but rather from the fact that they can just there's a phrase that goes out, or that has gone around. You want to train somebody to use a longbow? Start with their grandfather. You want to train somebody to use a firearm? Start Tuesday. So, with that said, I think it's completely reasonable to just have firearms be comparable to other weapons that are in, like, your setting in the game. Pathfinder does this really well by having firearms have, like, they have the reload property, so you have to spend some of your time reloading them. But then you also have, you have action compression, so you can do that while doing something else. But also, firearms, when you get a critical hit with a firearm, you go from a small modest damage die, like a D6, all the way up to like a D10 or a D12. So the damage die increases if you get a critical hit. So I think that actually helps encompass what people imagine for firearms while still keeping them in line with other weapons. And yes, if you had a modern firearm and stuff that had like a pointed bullet and stuff, that would have a lot more penetration. Those are designed to have high armor penetration. But if you're using just small little cap and powder and stuff, those did not have the same level of penetration as modern firearms do. They still oftentimes could penetrate armor, but it wasn't necessarily a guaranteed thing. And even then, a bullet wound is a lot smaller than a sword stab. So, Pathfinder 2, the way it handles firearms and stuff is, you have 3 actions on your turn. Therefore, spending an action to reload is way less taxing than spending your entire turn reloading. And a lot of classes, like the Gunslinger, get specialty reloads where when they reload, they get to do something else, so they always feel like they're being active. Like, one common one is running reload, where you can reload and then you can, like, move when you do so. You can step or stride, which allows you to reposition on the battlefield while reloading, which is great. If you're talking about in like a 5e game, there's ways to handle the reloading. You could spend movement to reload. You could just make it a bonus action if you want to keep it simple. If you want to spend actions or attack actions to reload, you want to basically factor that into the weapon's damage. If it's basically like you can reload and it has a magazine or whatever, if it only has one shot, basically every other attack is going to be eaten up if you're doing it per attack. And I would recommend doing it per attack, not per action. But if you're doing it you spend an attack, like one of your attacks to reload and then one of your attacks to shoot. Basically that means you have a 50% damage loss, so you can compensate for that by making the weapon roughly about twice as powerful. And no, I'm not talking about a video game, I'm talking about tabletop games, I'm talking about D&D, Pathfinder, etc. I'm actually very, very passionate about how to implement stuff like that. The other thing also to consider is that if you're going to have reloading rules and stuff, you should probably make sure that these also apply to crossbows, because crossbows technically had about as much of a complicated reload as firearms do. So if you're going to make reloads really taxing for firearms, you should probably do the same for crossbows, but also adjust crossbows to make them feel unique rather than just reskinning bows. They have like character editors and stuff that you can sometimes use to generate, not generate, but like little doll makers and stuff that you can use to make your characters and stuff. Hero Forge is a very popular one that allows you to make a little 3D mini. I highly recommend using something like that. On the topic of art, do you happen to have advice when it comes to robots that are more blocky in design, if it makes sense? Generally, look for references and stuff. Like, when it comes to drawing robot characters and stuff and starting from a block, literally start by just drawing them like as a series of cubes or blocks like this. Like, say this is going to be an arm. Well, then what you want to do is you want to add greeble to it. So just add a little cut like this. Maybe file off some of the corners and stuff. Make it slightly more... add greeble, basically. Add a little fixture like this. Hollow that out a little bit. And then right here is where the socket goes in. So yeah, you can see I just started with a cube here, and I just cut some pieces out, and now I've got a cool little part that could be like a segment for an arm or a limb. Let's see. What about a sharpshooter with his familiar weapons that doesn't miss? I wouldn't remove attacking and stuff entirely. If you want to do something, there should always be some kind of saving throw or attack roll involved with checks and stuff. You shouldn't be able to just get immediate free, like guaranteed hits, unless the system itself is designed for that. Like Draw Steel by Matt Colville. That system doesn't have an attack roll. Instead, you roll 2d6, check it on your table, and that determines how much power what you did for the attack. But I would not recommend just having automatic hits. And also, I would not recommend, like, if you're using 5e, don't give expertise or, like, huge increases to the attack. Because 5e is predicated on bounded accuracy, and if you're adding in a bunch of flat bonuses and stuff, that quickly winds up eclipsing it. It already does a bad enough job maintaining bounded accuracy, and really, you don't have to worry about accuracy in the first place, for the most part. Like, 75% of your attacks in D&D are going to hit unless it's a high armor enemy. I will say stipulations like that for characters that are like, hey, you can go ahead, or restrictions on basically what you can or cannot fight, unless they are very, very specific, usually aren't going to be very fun to play with. Like, they're just frustrating to work around. Like, you gotta have stipulations and stuff, and also you're also getting into alignment and stuff, which is kind of muddy, because a lot of alignment stuff is subjective. In fact, like, modern systems usually try to get away with or do away with alignment entirely, because like what might be neutral for some societies might be evil acts for others or good acts for others. What I would recommend, one thing that Pathfinder 2 has actually introduced for their remaster has been something called Edicts and Anathema, where basically any society, individual, belief system, etc. basically has a code that they basically follow. And it's usually a few small things, like, or if you're like a barbarian who's like a dragon barbarian, you have to decide whether you revere dragons or if you're built to fight them or whatever. And some of the edicts might be like, never disrespect a dragon or whatever. Do not kill a dragon unless it poses a direct harm to you or people you care about and stuff like that. Or if like you're a dragon slayer champion and stuff, it might be like your requirement is to never let a wrong from a dragon go unaccounted for. Your goal is to basically track down dragons that you have deemed that have harmed people close to you or your interests or your nation or whatever. You're not supposed to throw your life away to try and hunt down a dragon. However, you need to not, like, it still makes accounts for, like, hey, you have to still keep yourself alive. It's better to be a living dragon slaying champion than it is to be a dead one. Let's see, what other weapons can I go with? Hammer. Big hammer. Ultimately, though, the key thing that I would say is don't try to balance your character's mechanical strengths around narrative flaws. Because otherwise that just feels power gamey. But I digress. What were we talking about again? Yeah, talking about firearms again, as mentioned, if you want to implement them in your games for 5e, again, I would recommend probably using something along the lines of like movement to reload, maybe give multiple methods to reload and stuff, depending on the character and the class, because like if it's a bonus action to reload, that's great, except then classes that actually use their bonus action are kind of screwed. Or you could do other traits and stuff. Like one trait that I have actually explored is firearms basically don't function too differently from like crossbows, and you can get feats to ignore the reloading penalty. However, instead of doing your normal damage and stuff using your flat ability modifier, they only roll dice. So, like instead of doing like a 1d6 plus your dexterity modifier, it's 2d6 instead. And this also winds up affecting the crits more, because with crits you multiply the number of damage dice in 5e. So on a crit they would actually feel a little bit stronger because they would roll 4d6 instead of just 2d6, instead of 3d6 or 2d6. You were asking me questions when I think you don't actually, like... I don't think you basically... Have you actually, like... I don't know what system you're playing, is the thing. Super Durfman. It kind of hinges on, like, what system that you're trying to play and stuff, and what the system allows for, because just coming up with random powers and stuff isn't really, like, how a lot of, these games work. It more comes from you looking at what is available in the game, and then you deciding what powers kind of emulate the ability that you want. Tabletop D&D, no gamer system, those are two conflicting statements. D&D is a system. I don't know what it is that you're trying to do here, Durfman, I am sorry. Yes, that is how D&D is played, Dirtman. I don't know what you're expecting here. That's literally how D&D is supposed to be played. You either play it using a virtual tabletop, which is basically just meant to be like a digital version of a battle map, but you still track your character stats using a spreadsheet or a handout or a PDF or a pen and paper, and then you still roll dice, either digital dice or physical dice, whether it's at the table or in person, or over voice call and stuff. But that is literally how the game is played. The thing that you were asking me before about like character flaws and like character drawbacks and character perks is that all the questions you were asking basically hinge on the game that you were playing. I don't know what kind of question you're really asking at this point. There we go. Yeah, so the thing is, character flaws, and like, I will try to answer your question as best I can, but character flaws aren't something that you just kind of, if you want to have mechanical flaws and stuff, you don't just kind of generate something on the fly. You want to look at how the system actually works before you start coming up with like mechanical impacts and stuff. You can say like, hey, I want to be like a gunslinger and stuff, but you can't say like, I want to be a gunslinger who never misses an attack. Like, that's not something that the game is going to support if you're playing 5e, for instance. And then coming up with flaws like, you can come up with narrative flaws and stuff. Those are highly encouraged and stuff, but like as far as mechanical ones go, you can't use mechanical flaws, or you can't, unless the system allows for it, you can't voluntarily take on like a flaw like that to try and get other perks. You can't make yourself always hit by making it so your character has to always fight these things and stuff. That's not something that is like supported in the game by itself, and that's not something that would be something that a GM would actually have to basically educate on, and that would be a perk, not a class feature or anything like that. But as far as playing D&D, what you have described is literally all tabletop. I want to just stress that. It's not like a whenever I'm talking about this stuff, I'm never talking about like a video game or a solo player experience. It's always going to be a social game that you play with friends in person or over voice chat. Anyway, my head turns now. Well, no. Okay, you have to basically describe what it is that you specifically are asking at this point. If you want to basically design a character and stuff, like as far as firearms and stuff and their implementation, that is going to depend on the GM. Some GMs do not want firearms in their game, period. So you can't bring a firearm-based character to their table. They will say, no, make a different character. if the firearms are allowed, you have to use the rules that the GM basically has made for those firearms or is using for those firearms. You do not get to define the rules as the player. You can work with the GM to try and like say what you want to do with your firearms and see how they'll accommodate you, but you were not the one who's basically deciding how it works, because the GM is the one who has to balance the game. So letting the players control like every aspect of the balance and stuff would wind up completely blowing up in the GM's face. As far as designing a character and coming up with things, you have to look at how the game works before you decide what you're going to do and stuff. So, for instance, if the GM is using like the gunslinger subclass by Matt Mercer and stuff and implementing that in their game, you can use that and stuff to potentially to get the firearms that you want and stuff. Then you would just use the rules that are defined in that subclass. You wouldn't have to come up with anything on your own. But as far as like never able to miss and stuff, that's just not something that you're going to find in most D20 systems. If you want to have an ability to never miss, you need to find a different system to play. Like the thing about D&D and tabletop and Pathfinder and stuff is that there's a lot of roleplay and stuff and a lot of freeform narrative, but it still has like grounded rules that are meant to kind of keep everything grounded together and help guide the narrative. Somebody previously had asked me how to handle firearms in a game, and I was mentioning also how firearms work for like Pathfinder 2 and how they managed to address reloading and stuff like that in a way that I personally really like. But that was one example, and I was then giving examples of how to translate something like that into 5e, because 5e doesn't really have very good reloading rules and stuff like that, and it's got a very deformed action economy. That's all fine. It's I just didn't really know exactly what you were trying to ask for, really. Anyway, enough about that. How many of these little dudes I'm gonna need? I have some audio recorded for this, but I'm not importing it right now. I'm kind of just preparing the base rig. This video is planned to be around like 10 minutes long in total. Oh, I know what I should do. I should do my favorite outfit for one of these. Gotta have the bunny suit. I don't generally like doing realism. I don't really do it very often. I guess I could pull up, see what else I've got. Fair warning, I draw a lot of not safe for work. I am a not safe for work artist at the end of the day. So I don't actually have a whole lot that I can actually show on this stream. Oh, I know what I should do for a few character designs. I don't know why I didn't think of it earlier. The Toho fit. I just realized that I drew everything kind of slightly slanted. I don't know Ellie from Harvest Moon. Also, insert great name. I don't think your name is that. I think your name is insert good name because it says right there. You're lying to me. What's another Tuhu that I can implement? I'm trying to think of other Tohos, and all I can think of is Nazrin. Hello, yo, howdy. I am working on assets for my next video, which is going to be a video of me talking about charisma as a statistic in D&D and Pathfinder and stuff. I don't know how much longer I plan to go for tonight. I mainly just wanted to get some caricatures done and stuff, like little props that I can use, as well as kind of just get the layout kind of set up, and maybe start doing like a bit of the animation. I have audio already recorded, but I want to get as much done as I can before I import the audio and start syncing it. It's going to be done at 10 FPS, so I won't die. It's 10 minutes long. And let's do some quick maths. 10 minutes times 60 seconds per minute means 600 seconds, which means actually only 6,000 frames. That's actually not too bad. Thank you, Maypick, for the kind words. I don't stream here very often and stuff. It's kind of a blue moon kind of thing. And thank you, Edgy Hipster. I would like to see that if you do it. You can always show it to me over on Twitter by pinging me, or drop it in my Discord if you're in there. I like how this Zedcat rig came out, though. I might have to save this one so that way I can just drop it in quickly in the future. I like the little bit of a head turn. Oh, I should actually do Hiro and Izalith as little dudes. I just call these guys little dudes. Can go on the body. Have I played any of the Owlcat Pathfinder games? I have been playing through Wrath of the Righteous. I'm also doing that one in the tabletop form at the moment, so I've kind of paused it for a little bit. I just got to the part where I've arrived at Dresden, and that's actually where we are in the tabletop at the moment as well. We're a little bit ahead of that, actually. But overall, I haven't really been a fan of the Kingdom and Crusade management. I mainly just kind of want to do the skirmishes and stuff like that, and the character building. Though I've encountered kind of a few bugs and stuff where it's like encounters would like soft lock my game and stuff, where it would be like you kill these enemies and another enemy spawns after you kill them, and if you fail the roll to identify them, it never triggers the combat, which is weird. So you just kind of get stuck and can't exit out of combat, but you can't also start combat. You can't interact with anything. You can move around, but you can't like actually engage with anything. And it just kept happening and stuff, and I had to keep resetting and stuff because if that guy was basically a tough mini-boss fight. I could wipe my party. And so it was basically win that fight or soft lock my game. But overall, Wrath of the Righteous basically pulls no punches and stuff in terms of its difficulty and the like. You really kind of got to look up a build and stuff. I wound up playing a Vivisectionist build, basing it off of how I built another Pathfinder character I had played. And so far I've been having luck with that. What's really weird is that you apparently can use unarmed strikes and stuff like natural weapons, even while holding a weapon. So like if you have 2 claw attacks, you can use both claw attacks while holding a 2-handed staff, or a long spear. Which is odd to me. Not that I am against the idea, but I remember like you need actually a hand free and stuff in order for that to work in the actual game. Yeah, I need to come back to it eventually. I have not played Kingmaker, though. Let's see, trying. Get this one. Yep. Yeah, I've had to install Toybox, the modding toolkit, just so that way I can get through some parts of the game and stuff without too much issue. I've also disabled some of the annoying quirks of the game, like, to confess, I've disabled item weight because it just got to be too obnoxious. Because, like, there's technically nothing stopping you from clearing out an area, going back to camp, selling the stuff, going back to that area, picking up anything you couldn't bring with you, and then just doing multiple trips to sell your stuff. I would also really like to see a CRPG actually tackle grappling properly for once. Oh, weird. Like, no games really do grappling and stuff very often and stuff. Like Baldur's Gate 3 didn't have grappling. You could pick up enemies, but you couldn't technically grapple them, even though the check was the same. And picking them up was actually way better than just grappling them. Yeeting enemies around was very funny. I do find it interesting that Wrath of the Righteous, though, has intimidation and demoralization as a usable actions. Though they are missing a few feats that allow you to go full spec into like a intimidation Cornigon Smash build. The Cornigon Smash exists, but you don't have things like Hurtful. I don't know, 5e's grapple... The thing is, grapple rules and stuff aren't actually all that complicated to formulate. They just wanted you to do way too much with grappling, and I feel like the writing effects that you could have with grappling were basically kind of where things got a little bit muddy. Like, in 5e, the grapple check basically just means, hey, you can move the target at half speed if you're in control of the grapple, and they can use an action to try and contest the grapple and try to make it so that way they're the one in control of it. But beyond that, it doesn't give too much benefits or disadvantages. 3.5 had complicated rules that basically try to... The thing about 5e's grapple system is that the way you deal with it directly competes with the action economy, and the action economy is kind of king in the game. So if you're grappling somebody, they're just going to attack you instead because they don't have any penalties beyond that. 3.5 tried to make it so that way when you contest the grapple, you can still tap your turn. Multi-action systems and stuff handle this a lot better overall, because then when you're grappled and stuff, you can either spend an action to try and escape the grapple, or you can just continue fighting, whatever and stuff, but it's not eating up your entire turn to try and contest it. Way games like Lancer actually handle grappling, which Lancer is one of my favorite systems. Is largely overall pretty simple and stuff. You basically just make a attack at grit, which is basically a normal melee attack against the target. If you hit their evasion or beat their evasion, they are now grabbed by you. And you can grab basically a total number of... You can only grab something that is equal to your size, essentially. If you're smaller, they actually will, when they will actually move you. But when you grab them, you prevent them from taking reactions, and you both become slowed. So, slowed basically means that while you can move at your normal speed, you cannot boost. So you can't double move on your turn, and you have 2 actions on your turn, so boosting is a pretty common thing. But if you were the smaller element in the grapple, you cannot move at all until you escape the grapple. And additionally, when you have somebody grappled, everybody gains accuracy against them for their attack rolls. I think. It might just be prone. I can't remember. One thing that's actually fun though, speaking of Wrath of the Righteous, in the tabletop game, one of the mythic powers that I got is basically called Uncanny Grapple. When I grapple a target, it allows me to literally pick them up and then use them as a improvised weapon. And if I hit a target, it counts as a two-handed melee weapon attack that does a fat amount of damage, and it does this damage to both my target and the target I am grappling. It's very, very fun. I've ripped a rider off of his Drake mount and then bludgeoned his mount using him. Mythic Pathfinder gets very, very stupid. Alright, I think I'm going to wrap this up here because I think now I need to actually get the audio ready and import it into here, and that's going to be a lot more annoying. I don't know if I want to stream a bit with the audio anyway, but I've got the basic template up for this, so hopefully this will not take me very long to make. I've got the boards in the background already set up so I can add in text and stuff as I wish. This will all be black and white so I can tint it whatever color I want because I'm lazy. But anyway, I'm gonna get going. Thank you all for watching and joining me on this fine evening. It has been a hot minute. Hopefully you will see more of me. I'm not dead, I just am not very active here. Anyway, good night everyone. I just realized, is that my Twitch chat that's visible there? That is my Twitch... Wait. Ah, there we go. Hang on a second, I'm gonna zoom in really quick. Okay, yeah, that is YouTube. For whatever reason, my YouTube chat has stopped updating for me. Oh, my YouTube page has just crashed. Okay, cool. Thanks, YouTube. YouTube, everybody. That explains why my chat wasn't updating and why the screen was frozen. So yeah, the last message that I had gotten before I decided to wrap up here was the stuff about Kingmaker and Wrath of the Righteous. Thanks, YouTube. Anyway, good night, everyone. I'll see you guys some other time.